Okay, there. Let's go back. We missed some footage there. We were talking about discipline. Your mom disciplining you. I was going to ask you about
the honor system and how far were we allowed to wander from the nest is what we were kind of asking, right?
Yeah, you mentioned about the bell.
Yeah, the Stanfords who lived next door and had 3 children, one of whom was Mary Ellen, and the mother who ran the roost there. The father was a nurse, a male nurse like your dad was, and he had the huge garden in the backyard. All those people in our backyards all had huge gardens. They were all frustrated gardeners, all of them. The Hills and the Grahams and the Stanfords. And the Stanford actually bought from the neighbor behind them, bought part of his yard up because you couldn't build in the middle because there was way too much distance. Poor suburban maritime development at the time when they put the roads in. So they all had huge gardens in their backyard. So anywhere, Mrs. Stanford would go out and ring the bell on the back porch. And of course, when we were of that age, well, we could hear her bell. Then we knew that it was close for the time to get home. We didn't have watches, right? God didn't give you a Timex at that age. You'd lose it or walk on it or wreck it in a day.
Yeah.
So why would you even take that chance, right? And we always came home on time. My mother never sat down and said, well, how come you get here on time? But we could hear Mary Ellen bell going. And then you knew from the sunset. So it was always, when that bell went and we could hear it, we knew it was time to get home. And if we wandered too far and we came home late, then you were snuckily asked in its own way, so you've been out further than you should be. And then you learned from that, okay, right? But nobody talked about it. But if it was repeated, okay, then it came up before the committee. In other words, children aren't stupid. Neither are parents. My mother, you could lie to my mother and she knew it, that you were lying to her. Instead of taking a strip out of you, she would shame you or she would leave it. And for you to think that you got one honor. Yet in your little child mind you went, I got nothing on her. You don't get anything on that woman, right? And then you wanted not to be like that because that would be letting your mother down and that was a life lesson. So that's how it was for me, and I carried that through life. I didn't like to do anything bad in that way. I was a rebel. Like I didn't like bureaucracy and I didn't like what they had to represent. But at home and the rules and what you should do, then you had an honor system and you were true to it yourself. I carried that into the job, almost to a fault. I'd make up for it by being cheeky and snotty with the customer to see how far I could push it, then I felt better. But I would never lie to a customer, ever. But, as you know, I have rules for everything. Rules for friends, rules for people have cameras, right? Yeah. Rules for your relationship, you got rules for everything.
So tell us about the rules regarding the wooden spoon that you mentioned about your mother's
when I was 12, I'm going to guess it was between 12 and 13, my mother gave me a spanking because I was bad, right? I probably stole her cigarettes. I don't know what it was. I can't even remember what it was about. And I remember taking them, and she was whipping me, and it broke the spoon. When it was a wooden spoon she used for cooking. You don't want to get the cook mad. So I remember taking the spoon to the basement, applying the glue to it, and then taking the smallest, tiniest finish nails I could find. And then tapping. It didn't split, because you cut the ends off and then put them in, and it didn't split the wood. And then I brought the spoon up to my mother, repaired. Then my mother looked at me, and she looked at the spoon. She didn't say anything. That was the end of it. No more spankings. If the one you're spanking can repair the spoon, I guess that corporal punishment should be over with, right? So she put it away, and never, ever once did we flinch. When my mother used the wooden spoon, we knew we had it coming, right? That didn't matter. We'd push it just to see. You had to know.
So how, when she did give you a licking, did she put you over her knee, or how did she?
Yeah, stood over the knee. She'd miss half of it or whatever, right? She wasn't a good shot. And it wasn't that. It was that you pushed it that far that she had to do that. And then you felt bad. Even it's to be a child, you know when you're wrong. But you have to do it anyway. You have to push the boundaries. You have to find out. And you have to find your comfort zone. And when my mother did that and gave you a spanking, never once, you were never falsely accused. You'd been given every chance and you just had to push it. If we sat in company in the living room like this and you had friends over, then you test your mother. Then you begin a little bad thinking, well, she won't say anything in front of everybody else. Wrong. But you had to find out. You had to push it. You had to see what she would do. Children want to know where they stand. And you push it and she give you hell over, yeah. Why are you behaving bad in front of everybody here? You think that just because we got guests, that now you can be like, okay, I won't do it again. Done. We knew that. That's how it was. So there was a good way. It was the right way for me to be brought up. To me, that worked well. I was really happy with how I was brought up. If you can say such a thing.
Did you get many wooden spoons in?
Well, they usually involve somebody else leading me astray. And then I should have known better, so there was somebody to blame. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
When I went out to BC and I was with my cousin, he was the devil, I went with him. Well, that didn't count. He was doing bad things and you were an accomplice like Bill Carroll, you got punished. Simple as that. And you knew that. And you could blame your cousin all you wanted. So what? It wasn't his fault, it was yours. You knew that you shouldn't do that. So that's how it was. So you take responsibility. If you don't, well, you get a beating. What? You've left me no other choice. I brought you up, right? You knew it was wrong. Yeah, I did. Yeah, okay. Well, that's it. Get a beating. It's over.
So in the course of a year, what, once, twice, 3 times?
I sincerely don't remember.
Oh, so was that?
I don't remember.
It wasn't
right?
very often.
No, but they weren't chaotic. They weren't something that sit in your mind forever, like being beaten up, right, or being abused. There were nothing like that. When you got it, you knew you had it coming. Period. And you'd pushed it and you'd earned it. So you better shut up, buck up, and take the punishment because you were naughty.
So what was the meal regiment as you were growing up?
Breakfast at 8 o'clock and lunch at 12, between 12 and 12:30 when you come home from school. It was usually sandwiches.
Yeah.
Took about 15 minutes to get home, maybe 20 on a bad day, if you dawdled.
You got the hour for lunch.
Yeah, we got 1 hour for lunch. So by the time 12:30 was gone, you'd consumed everything and you listened to a little show on the radio, I think, right? And then you went back to school. And if you ran like hell, you do it in about 12 minutes. Not 20, not dawdling home. Because nobody wants to go back.
No.
Right? School wasn't fun. School was, well, you had to tolerate it.
How was your mother as far as cooking goes?
Good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's the best. They came. My mother could entertain a whole house. She knew how to cook. She taught herself everything.
Yeah.
Nobody taught my mother a damn thing. She learned it all the hard way. My mother would tell stories about her cooking experiences, right? They were quite fascinating to listen to back in the day.
Like what, you recall any?
Yeah, well, they were living in Yarmouth, and they invited some friends over for lunch, and my mother had her first go at tea biscuits, right? So my mom's serving up the tea biscuits, and they're all sitting there, and she made some coffee. They had the old perks then. And my mother's story always was the guy sat there, and he didn't eat the food. He didn't eat the tea biscuit, right? And he said, if I could bite it, I'd eat it. I can't get through it. Okay, that was it. So she had to change her tactic, right? Because you could use it for a piece of wood. You could use it for a frost plug, then it probably would have worked good. So she would tell you that everything she learned, she taught herself. And I had some of the old cookbooks, everything around. And she would learn from others. And her sisters, some of them were incredible cooks. So I don't know what was missing in that scenario.
What was your...
Annie Mac was an incredibly good cook. She was noted for baking and cooking, and my mother never baked unless...
Auntie Mac was married to...
That's Aunt Pat's mother, the one who lived in North Vancouver.
Oh, yeah.
Pat's place.
Yeah.
That was his mom. Frank's the father.
Yeah, Frank's the father.
Yeah.
Maxine is...
Yeah, Maxine was the real
Auntie
name.
Mac is Maxine.
Yeah.
And that's...
we love Mac. Mac loved all of us.
Maxine was the sister that when your mother came to Vancouver, before she met your dad, she stayed with...
Yeah, Gladys and Mac.
Yeah.
And Gladys was the pacifier. Mac was just a nice person.
Yeah.
Without an agenda, nothing. She was just a delightful person. She totally was. And we'd go there and visit. She was always easy to get along with. She was a terrible housekeeper. And we'd go and help her vacuum and clean. And we have incidences where my Auntie Mac, we were mopping in the house, and we moved the piano from the wall. and she come over like a lightning bolt. Oh, no, she, don't worry, Annie Mac, we got the bucket and the stuff. She was, there was about 5 years worth of cobwebs and dirt and everything behind there, right? So, but we loved her. And we would go and do housework for her and clean the house and do all of that, right? And boy, she could cook. And when I first got married, I got a lawnmower and I got a kitchen table, one of those chrome sets, right? And her husband was balking and saying, well, nope, oh, they don't have anything, they're getting this. And the mower barely run, but I could still mow the lawn.
So did your mom's side of the family, the relatives, did they come up?
What's this got to do with Dartmouth?
Well,
now we're out here on the West Coast.
No. From your mom's side of the family, did they come out to Dartmouth?
Never. No money for that.
No.
No way, not in those days. This is the propeller airplane era. We only went around.
I know.
Because we flew, we flew for free, and they didn't. No way, nobody had money for that.
So there was never, nobody from the West managed to come to visit Dartmouth.
Oh, in the 80s they did.
Yeah, in the 80s, fine.
Yeah, but when the children were gone and one or two.
They could afford to come.
Well, or they wanted to.
So the only...
They might discover the truth. My mother decorated a little bit too, the truth, you see, so they might come there and be disappointed with how great the house wasn't, right? And things like that.
Yeah, because you flew out when you were a kid to the West because...
Yeah, every 2 years.
What did your dad... Hang on, let's stop the tape.
Tape?